Hello, I'm Bart Dessart, part of the AWI Extension SA team. In this 10-minute talk, we're going to hear from Mark Ferguson, CEO of neXtgen Agri, about the types of data that can be collected using eID to improve productivity and profitability.
So there's lots of things about sheep that we can collect information about. Obviously you don't want to collect all of that information, but it is worth just knowing, I guess, the breadth of information that people out there are collecting. We work with people all over Australia and New Zealand who are collecting all sorts of different information, and today I just wanted to cover off on some of those things. I think one of the non-negotiables on a sheep farm should be a set of scales. So collecting live weights is particularly in young stock, growing stock, whether you're trying to mate ewe lambs, or whether you're finishing lambs in a feedlot, or whether you just really want to nail that two-tooth first maiden year of her conception. Having a set of scales and actually monitoring weight is really critical. So weight is something that you can really should be part of a sheep enterprise, and having eID and a set of scales together really does power up the value of those weights, because you start putting weights together rather than that single time. Yeah, really good information. Finding those lambs in a feedlot that aren't doing so well, that are shy feeders maybe, that early weights will help you discover those animals. So yeah, really critical thing. Probably obvious one around eID is weights, but something worth mentioning. Condition score is something you will have heard lots about over the years, and we often do it to manage animals, but it is a great thing to record on animals, because animals that are repeatedly skinny, so they might be skinny one year and that's okay, but if you take that same measurement a few years and you start seeing those animals that aren't actually responding to your management, are staying lean, and there can be animals that you can remove in a drought or take out earlier than you would otherwise. So condition score is a great thing that we can record, and something we do on replacement stock, but also use that stay within the flock. It's also great information to give you what we call a response to nutrition. So understanding within your flock, if you feed them to be half a condition score better, how many more lambs do you get? So if you get a few condition scores and then you start collecting preg scanning data, you can actually bring those two things together and actually start understanding what's going on in your genetics of your flock. So again, key bits of information, different time points that you can bring together to get a great result. So yeah, so preg scanning is something really simple to do. Often some of your preg scanners might do it, or even after they've gone, you just pull those mobs in and record who's a single or a twin, or who's a triplet or who's dry. And you can act on that information immediately, but you can also act on that next year or the year after, which ewes have actually twinned repeatedly, and that might become really important to you, particularly if you go through a dry period and you want to drop out some ewes. The ones that have only had singles every year could be ones that you drop out of that system if reproduction's part of your breeding objective. Health treatments are other things we can use eID to record. So if you're drenching only the light ewes or something, you can record that you've actually drenched those ewe. And again, when it comes down the track 2 or 3 years down the road, you're looking at your data and you're saying, well, this ewe's been drenched more times than this other one, so she might be one that goes on the truck, and we'll keep the one that hasn't been drenched. Things like withholding alerts are great as well. So there's a whole heap of ways you can use recording information around health treatments. Obviously, if you're in the merino game or in the wool game, there's a whole heap of wool traits you can measure. The obvious ones are fibre diameter and fleece weight, and fleece weight's pretty cheap. You just need that extra person in the shearing shed, and then fibre diameter is a bit of an investment, but if micron is an important part of your objective, it's something that can easily be measured. Obviously, when you get it measured, you get CV and curvature and other traits as well that might be important to you. And then things like staple length, really easy to measure as well. So there's a whole heap of wool traits that can easily be measured, recorded and kept for later use. I would recommend, if you are going to go into that wool game, there's this great kit around eID, turning eID into barcodes and then barcode readers. There's really good processes around some of that fleece measurement. So I'd recommend sort of getting a few skills or asking a few people around about how that's made more efficient, because it can be fairly error prone if you're reading tags and trying to do that on a busy shearing shed. eIDs and barcodes make that really simple. Not yet universally accepted, but we are getting closer to carcass feedback. Some of our abattoirs are now offering us information, and again, that's great information that we can get back. If we link that to eIDs, we might be able to use the history of that animal to link with the quality of that carcass. So again, as we start to getting more information into our businesses, we can make smarter decisions. So as in the next few years, you're going to see more and more carcass feedback coming your way, and not just at a mob level but at an individual level, and that helps you say, well, they were all the ones that were on that feed ration or finished earlier off that set of rams, and so you can start drawing conclusions from your data by getting that. So that's data that you don't have to collect yourself. It'll be coming down your emails, but you do have to kind of know that if you've got the right information collected on those lambs, you'll know which ones are therefore the ones that are performing the best. So lots of different things we can measure. There's other things that I haven't covered, but I think the key ones there were that pregnancy scan. That sets us up for life data for the rest of things we can collect on animals. If we know that what preg status that ewe was, if we lamb those ewes in their singles and twin groups, and we record that against the lamb, that sets us up with this great sort of basis for our data, because we know who was born single, who was born twin. Ideally, you know who was born out of a maiden, who was born out of a mixed age ewe, and that becomes really key information going forward. So that preg scan, it sort of sets you up for lots of other information. And I think the other key one there is some weights and condition scores that aren't hard to collect, but are really powerful to help you sort of interpret your data and get the best out of it.
Thanks, Mark, for sharing your experience and professional knowledge of the types of data used to improve productivity and profitability. This 10-minute talk was made possible by Australian Wool Innovation, the Department of Primary Industries and Regions SA, and the South Australian Sheep Industry Fund.